It was supposed to be a peaceful Saturday afternoon. I'd just gotten back from a long week at work and was looking forward to finally relaxing in my backyard, maybe even catching a quick nap by the pool. But the second I stepped outside, I knew something was off. Loud music was blasting, water was splashing everywhere, and a group of teenagers I'd never seen before were partying like they owned the place. My heart dropped when I realized they were in my pool. At first, I thought, maybe my neighbors were using it without asking. But as I got closer, I recognized one of the kids. It was the teenage son of a woman in the neighborhood known for causing trouble. Someone people whispered about but avoided confronting. You know the type, always loud, always right, and never afraid to throw around excuses or blame. Her son was no different, and today, he had clearly decided to help himself to my home while I wasn't around. I calmly asked them to leave, trying to keep the situation from escalating. But instead of backing down or apologizing, this kid did something. That shocked me. He walked right up to me, got in my face, and slapped me. Just like that. No hesitation. The entire party went silent. I could see the panic in his eyes the moment it happened, because what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'm the police chief of this town, the very person his mom would likely call if anything ever went wrong. Now, things were about to get real. Was this just a disrespectful prank gone too far, or was there something deeper going on here? And what happens when the truth about who I am finally comes out? Let's just say, he messed with the wrong person. You're not going to believe what happened next. I stood there, stunned for a second, not because of the slap itself, but because of the sheer boldness. This kid had no idea who I was. No clue that the man he'd just disrespected in his own backyard wasn't just some random neighbor, but the police chief. And I wasn't about to drop that fact just yet. I wanted to see how far this would go, and more importantly, why he thought he could get away with something like this. The other teens started whispering, clearly uncomfortable. Some grabbed their towels and phones, already heading toward the gate. But the kid, let's call him Jake, didn't seem fazed. If anything, he looked proud, like he'd just proved something. I kept my cool, asking him one more time, "Whose idea was this?" And with a smirk he said, "What are you gonna do? Call the cops?" He clearly thought he was untouchable. That's when it started making sense. I'd heard stories from other officers about a certain woman who constantly made noise complaints, called the department over petty arguments, and claimed everyone was out to get her and her son. Karen, that was her. And this must have been her kid. Jake. The pieces started falling into place. I decided not to react right away. Instead, I told them all to leave, firmly, but without showing my hand. I watched as they slowly filed out, mumbling and laughing under their breath. Jake was the last to leave, tossing one last insult over his shoulder as he walked through the gate. I didn't respond, because now I had questions. Why my house? Was this random, or had Karen told him something? Was this about more than just teenage stupidity? One thing was clear. This wasn't just about a pool party anymore. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this might be personal. After they left, I walked around the yard, trying to make sense of everything. Towels scattered across the chairs, empty soda cans floating in the pool, muddy footprints on the patio. Total mess. But what really caught my eye was a backpack left behind under one of the lounge chairs. I hesitated for a second, then picked it up. Inside were car keys, a phone with a cracked screen, and a wallet with Jake's school ID. That's when it really sank in. This wasn't just some harmless teenage prank. He felt comfortable enough to throw a party at a house that didn't belong to him and leave his stuff behind like it was nothing. That kind of boldness comes from somewhere. Later that evening, I pulled up Jake's name in the department's system. Nothing serious, Just a couple of minor incidents, mostly stuff that had been brushed off. But there was a pattern: vandalism at a teacher's home, harassment complaints at school, always dismissed, always written off as boys being boys. And guess who was always the first to file a complaint against others? His mom, Karen. She'd built a reputation. Any time her son got in trouble, she was there blaming someone else: neighbors, teachers, even other kids. And now, apparently, me. But what made it worse, what really started to bother me, was the thought that she might have sent him here, that maybe this wasn't random at all. A few days before this, I denied one of Karen's many noise complaints. She'd screamed on the phone, saying the department was corrupt, saying I was part of some personal vendetta. At the time, I brushed it off as her usual drama. But now? I wasn't so sure. What if this pool party was a message? What if it wasn't about fun, but about disrespect, power, control? If so, that meant this wasn't over. Not even close. And Karen? She had just started. The next morning, I woke up to something even more disturbing. A note shoved through my front gate. It was handwritten on lined paper, folded twice and taped shut. No envelope, no name. Just one line scribbled in messy ink. Stay in your lane. That was it. No signature, no explanation. Just a quiet threat. Now it was clear. This wasn't just a case of a disrespectful teen and a nosy mom. It had turned into something bigger, something deliberate. I'd dealt with a lot during my years in law enforcement, but this was the first time it felt this personal, like someone was trying to rattle me at home, where I'm supposed to feel safe. And honestly, it was working. I kept the note, took photos, and didn't mention it to anyone at the station. Not yet. I wanted to handle this carefully, especially since it looked like Karen was trying to play some kind of twisted game. I knew if I moved too fast, she'd just flip it around, spin a story, and try to make herself look like the victim. That was her pattern. And Jake? He was just a piece in her game. Loud, reckless, and shielded by her influence. But she didn't know I'd found the backpack. She didn't know I had proof. And I was betting she didn't think I'd keep my cool this long. Every day that passed, I could feel the tension rising. Jake had been quiet. No sign of him since that slap. But I knew it wasn't over. I started noticing the same car parked down the street at odd hours. Once, I caught someone snapping a photo of my house and speeding off. It was clear. They weren't just trying to get under my skin. They were watching me, pushing boundaries, waiting for me to make the next move. And I was getting real close to doing just that, because I'd stayed quiet long enough. And when I make my move, there's no going back. Something she wouldn't be able to walk away from. Just when I thought I had a grip on things, something happened that flipped everything on its head. I got a call from the department, not from an officer, but from a city council member, someone higher up. The tone was casual at first, almost friendly. But then he mentioned Karen. Said she had filed a formal complaint against me. Claimed I threatened her son and abused my power during what she called a private neighborhood dispute. She was pushing to have an internal review opened against me. I was stunned. Not surprised, but still caught off guard. She wasn't just making noise. She was going straight for my badge. And the worst part? She'd attached edited footage from someone's phone at the pool party. A carefully clipped video showing me raising my voice, cut right before her son. Slapped me. No context, just enough to make it look bad. This wasn't just personal anymore. This was calculated. Karen knew the system, knew exactly how to twist the truth just enough to make people question it. I could already feel the whispers starting in the department. And if she succeeded, I could be suspended, or worse. I started digging deeper into Karen's past, using public records and what little access I had left without raising alarms. That's when I found something I didn't expect. Karen wasn't just some loud neighbor with a chip on her shoulder. A few years ago, her name came up in a local business fraud case. Never charged, but mentioned. Then again in a property dispute involving her ex, who filed a restraining order that mysteriously disappeared from the record weeks later. Something wasn't right. Now I was starting to wonder, was Jake really just a reckless teen, or had he grown up learning how to play these games from her? What if this whole thing wasn't even about me specifically, but about control, power, and keeping people scared to speak up? I knew I couldn't let this slide. But the more I learned, the more dangerous it felt. Because the deeper I looked into Karen's world, the more it seemed like I wasn't the first person she'd tried to ruin, and maybe not the last. I knew I had to act fast before Karen's lies gained more traction. With the fake video spreading and her complaint officially filed, I had only one card left to play: the truth. I called a trusted friend at the department, someone I knew wouldn't fold under pressure. We quietly reviewed the footage from my home security cameras. Full, uncut, high-resolution footage that showed exactly what happened. Jake and his friends trespassing, the loud party, and the moment he slapped me without provocation. It also showed me staying calm, never touching him, never threatening. Just facts, clear as day. We packaged the footage with the photo of the threatening note, along with the contents of the backpack Jake had left behind. I didn't send it to Internal Affairs. I sent it straight to the city council and CC'd the department's legal office. No anger, no drama, just the truth, documented and time-stamped. By the next day, the tone around me had changed completely. Karen's complaint started to fall apart. Her video was exposed as misleading. A few of the teens from the party even came forward anonymously, confirming I had done nothing wrong and that Jake had instigated everything. The investigation flipped on her. The department cleared me of any wrongdoing, and suddenly Karen wasn't answering her door when the press showed up asking questions. But just as I started to feel like justice had finally won, something else happened. A knock at my door late at night. I opened it to find a man standing there. Mid-40s, sharp suit, no badge but definitely official. He handed me a card and said just one sentence: "You're not the only one who's been watching Karen." Then he walked away. The name on the card? A federal investigator. Turns out Karen's pool party stunt was just a tiny part of a much bigger story. Something involving fraud, manipulation, and a long trail of complaints and quiet settlements. And somehow, without even meaning to, I'd stumbled right into the middle of it. So yeah, Jake slapped the wrong guy. But Karen, she messed with the wrong system. In the weeks that followed, everything slowly came into focus. The federal investigator reached out again, this time with more details. Turns out Karen had been under quiet observation for a while. The pool incident, the fake complaint, even the tampered footage, all of it helped build a pattern of behavior they'd been struggling to prove. My experience became a crucial piece of the puzzle, and just like that, what started as a wild afternoon in my backyard turned into the beginning of something much bigger. Jake was sent to a diversion program. For minors, a chance to get back on track. Part of me was angry, sure, but another part hoped this would be a wake-up call for him, before he ended up down a road he couldn't come back from. As for Karen, legal action is still in motion. I don't know how far it'll go, but the spotlight is finally where it belongs. Back at the station, things returned to normal. A few raised eyebrows at first, some office jokes about pool parties and staying in my lane. But overall, the respect came back. If anything, stronger than before. Because I didn't let the situation push me into a bad decision. I handled it with patience. And in the end, the truth did what it always does. It came out. Now, every time I walk into my backyard, it feels different. Not because I'm afraid, but because I know how quickly things can spiral, and how important it is to stand your ground with clarity, not chaos. If there's one thing I've taken from this, it's that people like Karen thrive on fear and confusion. But when you stay calm, keep your receipts, and let the facts speak, even the loudest voices lose power. And that's how the party ended.